Welcome everyone to another episode of VC Uncovered, the podcast where we deep dive into Africa's vibrant tech ecosystem. I am Romaric Gambo from inAfrika Consulting, and I will be your host for today's episode. We have a fantastic guest with us, Vincent Prévi, Managing Director of Chapter54, a truly unique accelerator helping European scale-ups successfully navigate the African market. With years of experience in business development across emerging markets, Vincent brings a wealth of knowledge about what it takes for European companies to not just enter the African market, but succeed in it. Thank you, Vincent, for being with us. Can you please share some words about you?
Thanks a lot, Romaric, for this invitation. A few words about me. I'm actually the managing director of the Chapter 54 program. I joined Partech more than 3 years ago now, first to design and then to run this program. And prior to that, I was working for a company called Edenred. So Edenred is a major B2B payment company specialize in solutions like gift cards, payroll cards, fuel cards. And I used to be the guy in charge of the African business for this organization. And prior to that, I did a little bit of consulting and I graduated in international relations. So it's everything you need to know about me, except the fact maybe that I'm the happy father of one wonderful small girl.
Oh, great. Thank you for this journey in your life. Let's start maybe with an introduction of what is Chapter 54. Can you tell us more about what inspired you to launch this accelerator with a specific focus on European companies and entering in the African market?
So at the very beginning, it was not a Partech idea to initiate this program.
Yeah.
This idea came from KfW, which is the financial arm of the German Ministry of International Development and Cooperation, BMZ. KfW is a long-time partner of Partech in Africa. They have invested into the first Partech Africa Fund in 2018, and because they were super happy with the job work with the work done by the Partech Africa team, they also invested in the second fund just a few months ago. So because they were super happy with this work done, they reached the Partech team to tell them, guys, we are super happy as investors. So that's why we would like to give you a very specific project. And this very specific project was going to be Chapter 54. So it's a side business of Partech, but a non-investment related one.
Okay, I see. I understand. Very interesting. So, can you be more specific about what are the main key component of the program?
Yes. So we define ourselves
Mm.
as an Europe to Africa accelerator. It is a
Okay.
mandate of Chapter 54. Uh, so we work with companies from all over Europe. So presently we're working with companies from UK, Bulgaria, Germany, France, and so on. And from all the tech verticals, RegTech, FinTech, SportTech, SaaS, we do a little bit of everything. So we define ourselves as an accelerator, but when we designed the program, we did a benchmark exercise and we realized that we could not compare with the classical accelerators. Because in general, an accelerator, it is for early stage company, and the main output is a fundraising. It is not what we do. We target rather major companies already field proven on the European markets, and the output is operational, launching, reinforcing business in Africa. And it has a certain number of consequences on the way we designed the program. So, why are we special? Regarding the timing, in general, in an accelerator, okay, you have to apply on May 15th, then you are selected on join first, and all the companies are gathered on join 15th in one same place. it is not what we do. Because we work with major companies and they have precise problems to be fixed, okay? We need to work with them, to start working with them when they are ready. And it is what we do. If they want to start to work with us in September, we start with them in September. If it is in May, it is in May. So each time we try to move forward at the pace of these companies. Something which is also very important. If you take into account the mentoring sessions, okay, I would say it represents 30% of the value of the program. So if you consider the mentoring sessions, okay, each company is allowed to have 17 hours of individualized mentoring sessions with one of our 70 plus mentors.
Wow.
These 17 hours, they are like credits, okay? So the companies can use them the way they want. If they want to burn these credits in 4 months, it's okay. So, and if they want to burn these credits in 1 year, it's okay too. We adapt. That's our problem, not theirs. So that's for the time management, okay?
Yeah.
So regarding the content itself, here again, we try to make things differently. So I've mentioned very quickly our pool of mentors. In this pool of mentors, you will have nobody from the investment world, which is quite paradoxical when you are working at Partech. Okay, so our mentors they do not come from VC, private equity, consulting firms. No, they come from operating positions. Okay. And that's the baseline of the Chapter 54 program. By doers, with doers, for doers. So we have more than 70 mentors, and these mentors, they mainly come from 3 universes. First, they come from the major African tech companies that already exist. So if you think of companies like Flutterwave, Fari, Jumia, all these big animals are represented into my pool of mentors, either by C-level or ex-C-level. The second category of mentors we have onboarded are mentors coming from international tech companies like Glovo, Uber, already operating in Africa. And the third category of mentors we have onboarded are mentors who do not come from the startup world. Okay, they come from classical African corporates, retail, insurance, banking. And that's very important because when you are a European tech company expanding in Africa, your first partner as a client, as a reseller, as a provider, it's not going to be an African startup. In most of the cases, it will be one of these classical corporates. So that's why it is important for us to have a reach into these organizations. So you can go on the chapter54.com website and you will see the list of the different mentors. And we are super proud of this because really they are top guys. And we strongly value the trust, okay, that they have for the program. And really, I would say that it is maybe 30% of the value, of the perceived value of the program, but it's much more in terms of asset for the Chapter 54 program.
Thank you, Vincent. It's very clear.
I speak a lot, so you have to interrupt me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I can have.
Yes, you have said something very interesting in your way of developing this network of mentor of people that will strengthen the entry in the market from European companies. So are there any specific sectors that are particularly suited for this kind of collaboration?
Okay, there are 2 questions in your questions. The first question, it is, where do these mentors come from in terms of industry? Are they rather fintech, software? Really, a good mentor is not necessarily a good expert of the industry of the European company they will have to work with. A good mentor, first of all, it is a question of mindset. It's a question of network. It's a question of methodology, of availability. I'm going to give you a very simple example. One of my best mentor, okay, is the ex-CFO of Dangote Cement in Nigeria. So really, so Dangote, for people who don't know, it is the major building material manufacturer in Africa.
Mm.
Okay, so we are very, very far from the startup world. But
It's a
here's
Nigerian company.
yes, and Mr. Dangote is told to be one of the richest men in Africa.
Mhm.
And okay, he doesn't know a lot about the tech, about startups, but he knows everything about how you manage a cross-border financial function, okay? How
Mhm.
you manage the complexity, legally speaking and financially speaking, of a joint venture. So he has a lot to share on this. And that's why for one specific company, which is into the Chapter 54 program, he was a super good mentor. So you see the match between the European startups or scale-ups and the mentor is not always obvious, okay? It's a mix of geography, okay, a little bit of industry expertise, but not always. Now, the second question in your initial question, it is, okay, what are the most interesting
Sectors.
sectors? So when we designed the Chapter 54 program, we had in mind that 50% of the European companies we would work with would be B2C and 50% would be B2B.
Mhm.
It is not that simple. Really, up to date, I would say that we have much more B2B companies into the program than B2C ones. Maybe because there is a question of the maturity of the market, because the time to have a payback on your initial investment is much longer with a B2C business than with a B2B ones. But there is also another reason. It is that what are the most successful B2C business in Europe? It is
Mhm.
mainly fintech, insurtech. So we are talking of regulated business. And when you are a European B2C fintech company and that you are used to passporting your license from Italy to Latvia, from Latvia to Netherlands, reinventing the wheel in terms of compliance, okay, because you enter a new African market, it can be frightening. So that's why maybe there is this limited appetite from European B2C startups for the African continent. Now, if I consider the B2B space, I would say that there are two categories of companies. There are the companies addressing the functional needs of the companies. So startups addressing the HR needs, finance needs, and okay, we have some into the program, but there is also the companies addressing the needs of a specific industry, education, construction, and I would say that maybe it's easier for these companies. So if you are a European industry-specific SaaS company,
Mhm.
really there is a lot of things to do in Africa for you. Because if you address, for example, if you address the needs of uh, the construction industry, okay,
Mhm.
maybe in Tanzania, you just have 5 to 10 potential clients. Okay.
Yes.
So it's an interesting additional business for you. But 5 to 10 potential clients, it's not enough to generate a local player. So that's why this industry specific B2B business are my favorite ones. Maybe I can elaborate a little bit more on
No.
some of the companies which are into the program to make.
Exactly. That's a good point, Vincent. Chapter 54 has helped numerous companies succeed in Africa. So maybe we can dig deeper in one case study in your portfolio. I know that there was an ad tech company that set up operation in Senegal and Cote d'Ivoire. Are you willing to speak more about that company so that we can understand what their journey look like and what are the key outcomes and what did they learn along the way?
That's a very interesting story because the two founders of this French ad tech called Kawarizmi, one is French Senegalese and the other one is French Algerian. So in theory, they have no idea. They, sh- uh, they don't have nothing to learn from the Chapter 54 team, considering their family background. But they were humble enough to reach us and to say, guys, okay, we have an African background. But doing business in Africa in the tech space, it's something we don't know how to do it. So if we want to expand from France to Francophone countries, we need your support. And it was a very cool story because their mentor was a guy they wanted to work with 10 years before.
Mhm.
So their mentor was the former head of Africa of JCDecaux, so a major out-of-home advertisement company. So he knows everything about who are the ad buyers in Africa.
Mhm.
So really, the mentoring sessions were super useful to them. And in terms of output, it was, I would say, two things. The first thing, it was more clients in Senegal, in Ivory Coast, in Algeria, with a dedicated sales team, and we helped them a lot to generate this new Africa-focused sales force. But even in terms of methodology, with the mentors, they learn not only about the company, but more broadly, not only about Africa, but more broadly on how they should run their business, okay, in the
Yeah.
midterm. So a very nice story.
Okay, great. Similarly, you have worked with a Web3 company that expanded into Nigeria. It will be interesting to know how they validated their market approach and what their biggest takeaways are. I think our listener will really appreciate hearing the tangible results these companies achieve and how Chapter 54's guidance helps them to meet their goal. So that maybe it will increase this perception of the success rate of companies from Europe trying to expand in Africa.
I love this Ledger story because we are talking of Ledger. Ledger, so it's a manufacturer of hardware wallet
Oh, yeah.
for crypto adopters. So it's a very nice story because it's something that we are familiar with. Um, in a lot of cases, the company which decide to join the Chapter 54 program, they are not virgin of any experience on the continent. In general, they already have some assets, some users, some clients on the African continent, and they join the Chapter 54 program to go further and to structure a business development approach for the continent. And Ledger is a concrete example of this, definitively. So Ledger, they realized that on their e-boutique, okay, so on the ledger.com website, there were some people from Nigeria purchasing their hardware, okay, but paying 2 or 3 times the price because of the DHL fees. And they also realized that there were a lot of legit transactions which were not authorized by their PSP, their payment gateway.
Okay.
So we helped them to rethink their payment acceptance strategy, okay, to accept more transactions coming from Nigeria. And we also helped them to engage with Nigerian distributors to make their devices more affordable because using international shipment with DHL is very, very expensive. So if they want to reach the full potential, they have to deal with local distributors. So we help them a lot in that sense. But before that, there was a preliminary work to be done because okay, there is a lot of newspaper thing that Nigeria is a country where people adopt a lot crypto assets, but there was not a very solid study on that case. So that's why we decided to do for them a market survey, okay, with one of our partner, Africa Panel, and this way we were able to identify the reality of the Nigerian potential in terms of crypto beyond the buzz, beyond the buzz. So now we have nice figures, we have serious figures on the potential of the Nigerian market. What is the percentage of the population adopting the cryptos? Why do they do it? Which class of assets do they use? What is the average amount of money used or invested into the crypto space? So we did this study for Ledger, and because we did this study, whose outputs were very positive, okay, and if your people are interested, I would be more than happy to share with them this report, because we organized a webinar to release this data. So because the outputs were very positive, then it justified all the efforts that we did, all the efforts done in the payment strategy and in the partnership strategy.
Perfect, perfect. Very clear, Vincent. So now that we understand that there is some companies which are clearly operating in the African continent, thanks to this bridge that you are building between Europe and the realities of Africa, I would like to dig deeper in the African market opportunities for international investors. So if we talk about broader opportunities for international investors, can you tell me, Vincent, what sectors or industries do you think are more appealing to investment in Africa right now? That's the first question. And as a second question, are there particular trends or area of growth that you are identifying for these investors?
Okay. So I would say, so first, I would repeat that for international tech companies, industry focused B2B is something which is very cool. Okay. So I just come back from a business expedition in Senegal with Buku, a Dutch edtech addressing the needs of the international universities. And really, Buku already have some clients in Namibia and in Kenya, and they joined the program to touch the potential of the Francophone Africa, and really this trip to Senegal with them, meeting with potential clients and partnerships, helped them a lot to see the potential of the continent. And it's a B2B play. And I could say the same with Barin Sport, which is a Bulgarian sport tech that we are supporting. And it's a very nice story. So maybe you observe that more and more football players, they have a GPS trackers, okay, on the back. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And but it's not just a device. There is a lot of intelligence behind. And Barin Sport is one of the provider of this technology. They already have some key clients in the Portuguese-speaking world, but they joined the program to go further, quicker, and they have great assets, great technology, a great ambassador, because Michael Owen, the ex-football player, is business angel into their company, and we see a lot of potential for their solution with African academies, African federations, African clubs. So here again, it's a B2B play, and there are much more to be addressed. Now,
the trends and the areas of growth that you see.
Maybe, if I observe not the startup world, but the private equity world, I'm always positively surprised with how confident the private equity funds are confident with the health industry in Africa. So I was counting this morning because I had another call, and I realized that maybe in the 5 last years, private equity funds, okay, have done more than 50 deals in health. By health, I mean diagnostic centers, radiology centers, clinics, pharmaceutical distribution, pharmaceutical manufacturing, and I think that's something which is very promising. Another sector that I consider as very industry, it's agribusiness, but not the lower part of the pyramid, just the step afterwards. The people who transform, who process the the agriculture. I mean, I'm talking more of the industrial phase, the poultry industry, the feed transformation industry, the meat transformation industry. I think it is a very interesting play for the investors, but also for the technology providers who want to help these players which are active on this part of the value chain to be more modernized.
Okay, so what I understand, it's the fact that we have now in Africa health tech and agri-tech, which are the main growing sectors and showing interest for investors. What about fintech?
Romaric, so I would say health tech and agri-tech, but into the agri-tech, the agri-processing part.
Okay, fair enough. But what about the historical fintech sector, which has been for a long time the main driver of interest for investors in Africa? Is there any potential interest that is still rising for these activities? And what about also climate tech, as Africa is also facing some challenges with global warming? Is there any opportunities?
In fintech, yes, because we always think about company with what's happening in Kenya with M-Pesa or what's happening with Wave in Senegal. But there's still pockets of digitalization regarding fintech in plenty of other African countries. So first, second of all, I also realized that the fintech players, because they are the very first layer of the digitalization of a given country, they change the world, not only for their services, because they oblige the other players, insurance, media, banking, to have a higher level of service. So really, it's very critical. Fintech is not just having a smart payment solution. It's also fintech are also obliging all the corporates, okay, to be more demanding regarding the services they offer. Regarding the clean tech, uh, I think that my colleagues of Partech will have more things to share about this, but maybe I can share you the interesting story of a French cleantech where I've worked for. Okay, a company which was into the Chapter 54 program. It's a wonderful company, not digital but very technological.
Mhm.
Okay, it's a company called BNergy. Okay, it's a French company, and they do something which is not always well understood in Europe, but very well perceived in Africa. They regenerate batteries. Okay, I'm
Mhm.
not saying that they recycle the batteries, which would mean breaking the batteries and taking the components. No, no, no. They regenerate them, which means that they have the technology to give them a second birth. Okay,
Mhm.
so you have companies, they have stocks, for example, a Towerco. Okay, a Towerco is obliged to have batteries as a backup solution. So they have these Towerco companies as clients, okay, to regenerate their battery, which is a good thing because a battery which is regenerated, first, it's a battery which is not going to disappear. You don't know where, okay. And second of all, a regenerated battery, it's a battery which won't be imported.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So B Energies, they have a network in Morocco. They have a very good business in Senegal. They have a very good business in Mauritius. So if you are based in Africa and if you have batteries to regenerate,
Mhm.
reach me and I will introduce you to this very cool company. And definitively, they have a concrete impact on the climate.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you for that, Vincent. I think maybe some people who will listen to the podcast will probably have an interest to reach that company. Um, Vincent, when we have discussed earlier before this podcast, you mentioned in your program overview that Chapter 54 helps companies assess their risks and better understand the local market. For our listeners who are investors, what advice would you give on how to approach the African market strategically? How can the program, like yours, mitigate potential risks and maximize their return on investment?
Okay. When a company applies to join the Chapter 54 program, they are requested to say, okay, in which countries you would like to do business, okay? And our responsibility is to challenge this, okay? Because in general, companies have an initial interest for a specific African country for bad reasons.
Mhm.
It's reason number one, it's because one country speaks the same language. And in France, companies have a natural interest for Ivory Coast, Senegal, and it is my responsibility to tell them, okay, you share a language, but it does not make a market potential.
Mm.
Question number two, not question, but comment number two, companies come to us because they have into their management a diaspora member who want to come back to the country, okay? And here again, that's a bad reason. Comment number three, some companies have a special interest for a country because they were contacted by a potential partner, okay?
Mhm.
And it's not because you are contacted by an external partner for a given country that this partner is a good one, okay? So it's the very first thing we do. It is to challenge the shopping list they come with when they join the program. So don't be too pushy, okay, in selecting your very first country of implementation. That's my first comment. And in the B2B space, be very, very, very careful on what is the real size of your market, not only in terms of revenues, but more generally in one given country, okay, how many clients do you have? Because if you, for example, if you have a very expensive, demanding software solution, in some African countries, okay, the smallest one, maybe you will sell your solution to 3 banks, 2 insurance, 3 telcos, 1 brewery, and it's over. You equipped all the potential clients. So be very careful before putting all your eggs in one same basket.
Okay, very clear. Thank you very much for this recommendation. Vincent, before we wrap up, I would love to hear about the future of Chapter 54. What are your plans for the accelerator in the next few years? And are there any new initiatives that you are excited about?
When we talk about Chapter 54, we speak okay about the program, the methodology, the relationship we have with Partech, but we also speak a lot about Africa. Okay.
Yeah.
And so each time that we have the opportunity to create awareness on the opportunities on the African continent, we do it. So maybe the next exciting thing that we have to work with, it is the next edition of the Chapter 54 Summit. Because every year we organize this. We cannot reveal yet the city, but that's very important for us to show concrete examples of successful stories. And not only successful stories, but stories with big numbers, okay? Big revenues, big turnover, and either for African companies or international companies operating in Africa. So it will be a big challenge for us in the coming weeks. The beauty of my job, it is that the future of the program is written by the companies themselves. Okay, because the specificities of the companies we're working for, okay, are going to determine the content of our mission in the coming months. So a few weeks ago, I would not have believed that we could be able to bring value to a Bulgarian sport tech wanting to expand into Africa. So um, the future, okay, is definitively dependent on what will be the next companies we will work with.
Thank you, Vincent. And what is your last message for all those European entrepreneurs and investors who are looking to expand in Africa?
I'm going to talk to the people who think that Africa is not for them. Okay?
Okay.
I think it's more interesting. I'm going to tell them, okay, you think Africa is not for you? Why not? Do you have a website? Okay. Is it possible to purchase your service or your devices on your own website? Okay. Do just a small analysis of your payment statistics. Okay. And you will realize that, a bad news, guy, you are already in Africa.
Oh, that's a great insight, Vincent. I think it
It's too
will
late. So now
raise
it's time to do it
awareness
properly.
to a lot of people. Because we don't think about analyzing all those digital capabilities of the e-commerce, especially the sources of revenues generated. And I guess, like you said, that a lot of population in Africa are using digital to buy stuff, and we always think that we are only representing a small portion of the global e-commerce landscape, but maybe the share is bigger than what we are thinking.
And not only for the physical e-commerce. I think it is even worse with the fully digital e-commerce. For example, when you are using a Deezer or a Spotify service from Africa.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Vincent, for joining us on VC Uncovered. This has been a truly insightful conversation, and I'm sure our listeners will walk away with a better understanding of the role of international players can have in Africa landscape. For those interested in more about Chapter 54, I would suggest you to look at your website, which is, can you remind us, maybe
Chapter54.com. That's easy.
very easy, perfect. And for those who want to find you, how can we reach you? Directly
I'm very
through
visible
your
on
website?
LinkedIn and traveling a lot.
Okay,
But if by any chance you are in Paris, I've never declined the coffee.
okay, perfect, perfect. Thank you, all of you who are listening you. And don't forget to subscribe to VC Uncovered for more episodes like this one. We will cover stories in Africa Tech Pioneers. Thank you again, Vincent, et
Thanks a lot, Romaric.
bye bye.
Bye bye.